All right, here we go. Day 3, 2.2. We're going to finish this up. This is the last thing in 2.2. And what we're going to do, we're going to kind of work backwards. And we're really going to look at the connection between a zero of a function and the factor of that function. And we're basically going to get the equation. Okay, now you can see I have written something on the top right there. You guys can write this down. I might have already gone over this in class, but if not, here it is again. Let's say A. Now A, this is going to represent a number. Let's say that's a 0 for f of x. What we can conclude then is if you factored out f of x, what we conclude is that x minus a is a factor for f of x. So we really have to know how the zeros and the factors go hand in hand, because that's really what we're going to use to do these three problems right here. Okay, so let's look at number 1. We have find a polynomial function of x. It's got to have a degree 3, and it gives us the 3 zeros. So now this is opposite of everything that we've done. Before we had problems where we were given the equation for f of x, we had to find the zeros. This is completely the opposite. They give us the zeros, now we have to come up with the equation. Okay, this is the big thing right here. Okay, so if I have 0, if that is a 0, well then x minus 0, that's a factor. So, well, x minus 0, that's just the same thing as writing x. So I'm just going to write x here. Well, for this 2, the corresponding factor for that, x minus 2, has to be a factor. So I'm going to put times the quantity of x minus 2. And then for the 1/3, I know I could do x minus 1/3. Now you can do that, but it's going to get ugly because eventually we're going to have to multiply everything out. We're going to have to foil these out to get the polynomial. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to multiply this factor by 3 to get rid of that 1/3. So when I do that, this factor changes to 3x, and 3 times this 1/3 is just 1, so 3x minus 1. And I'm going to put that last factor in. Okay? Now, here's the only hard work. That's actually the easy part. Set up all the factors. Now the hard part is, it gets a little tedious and it's kind of annoying. Now you want to FOIL everything out so that you end up with a degree of 3. Now if I want to multiply these out, you want to FOIL this out first, and then the last thing you want to do is multiply that result, that quadratic, by x. So I'm going to FOIL that x minus 2 times 3x minus 1. Okay, when I FOIL this out, let's see here. 3x times 3x is 3x squared. Okay, do the arrows. The outer term, x times negative 1 is negative x. Inner term right here, negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. The last term, negative 2 times negative 1 is plus 2. Okay, I'll drop down the x. And then let's see here, for this quadratic, I can combine these. So this quadratic is going to be 3x squared. Negative x minus 6x is negative 7x, then plus 2. And then the last thing I have to do is just distribute this x to that quadratic. So when I do that, it becomes 3x cubed minus 7x squared plus 2x. And this is our equation for function of x. Okay, how can you check this? Well, good way you can check this is you could use your TI-Nspire. You can graph this entire function. And then when you graph it, you should get zeros at 0, 2, and 1/3. Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay, very similar. It's saying that we have a degree of 3, and it gives us the 3 zeros. Now the thing that gets a little tricky here is now we have square roots. So let's first get the factors. Just like the last one, if 0 is a 0, then x is a factor. Then we have plus or minus root 2, so I'm going to put x minus root 2, and then x plus root 2. Now, very similar to number 1, again, I want to FOIL this out. Now, this is going to be the difference of two squares pattern. So when I FOIL out x minus root 2 and x plus root 2, the middle term should cancel out. So let's just bring down the x. Okay, and then when I do this, x times x is x squared. Okay, and if you can't see it, the outer term is plus root 2x. The inner term is minus root 2x. So they're going to go away. And then here, negative root 2 times positive root 2, well, that's negative root 4, which is negative 2. So all the roots are going to go away. So I bring down the x. Okay, these middle terms, these go away, they're opposites. So then we just have x squared minus 2. And you think of it, this makes sense. For this x squared minus 2, if you set that equal to 0, you're going to get plus or minus root 2. Then you just distribute, and then you have your function of x cubed minus 2x. And that's it. That's our answer. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Very last one here. Now, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because the degree is higher. The degree is 4. So you're going to have to multiply more terms. And the other thing is we're only given 3 zeros. So there's going to be 3 different answers for this. You only have to have one. Okay, let's first get the factors. Okay, if 1 is a factor, or excuse me, if 1 is a 0, then that means x minus 1 is a factor for f of x. If 2 is a 0, then we have x minus 2. If 3 is a 0, then that means x minus 3 is a factor. Now, I can't just FOIL these out 2 times because you can see I only have 1, 2, 3 x's. That's going to give me a degree of 3. I need a degree of 4. So what has to happen here is one of these factors, the x minus 1, x minus 2, or x minus 3, has to be squared. I could do this. I'm going to put the different options here. I'll put or. Then you could have x minus 1, and then times the quantity of x minus 2 quantity squared, and then x minus 3. That gives me a degree of 4. Or the last option, we'll square the last factor, the x minus 3. So you have x minus 1 times x minus 2 times the quantity of x minus 3 squared. You could do either of these 3, and it'll give you a function that has a degree of 4, and it has the 3 zeros at 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to stop the video right now. This is going to be it. What you have to do right now is I want you to do one of these. Okay, I want you to FOIL this out first, FOIL this, and then multiply these 2 results together. And as I said, it's going to be tedious. It's going to take you a little bit of work. It's going to be more bookkeeping than math for anything. But do that and see what you get for your answer. And we'll go over that first thing in class tomorrow. So find f of x by multiplying and FOILing everything out.